I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume. So I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We are continuing in the Gospels. We are just at the day before the Passover. And Christ has been preaching in the temple. This is his last time. He is now out in the Mount of Olives with his apostles. And they have asked him about the last days. When will the end of the world be and the destruction of the wicked? Now we read this in Matthew chapter 24, and the Joseph Smith translation of Matthew, which is contained in the Pearl of Great Price. Our last reading was to read his answer in Mark. Now we are going to read the Joseph Smith translation of Mark chapter 13. And I'm not going to do a direct comparison right now, but you can go back and you'll see that Joseph Smith has made Mark chapter 13 fit almost perfectly with Matthew chapter 24. In the King James Version, they are very different, Mark and Matthew, but in the Joseph Smith translation, they are nearly identical. So let us read this now. We are just going to read the entire chapter again. And before we read this, I do want to show you this in the text here. You can see all these verses are just crossed out. And it's not because they are not in here anymore. It's not that Joseph Smith removed them. He moved them to a different order. So the entire chapter is now reorganized, rewritten, and he did the same thing with Matthew. So let us read this now. Mark chapter 13 in the Joseph Smith translation. And as Jesus went out of the temple, his disciples came to him for to hear him, saying, Master, shew us concerning the buildings of the temple. And he said unto them, Behold, Behold ye these stones of the temple, and all this great work and buildings of the temple? Verily I say unto you, Verily I say unto you, they shall be thrown down and left unto the Jews desolate. And Jesus said unto them, See you not all these things, and do you not understand them? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here upon this temple one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And Jesus left them, and went upon the Mount of Olives. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be which thou hast said concerning the destruction of the temple and the Jews? And what is the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world, or the destruction of the wicked, which is the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. You'll note now, just like in Matthew, it is now they are asking about the temple. Now Matthew indicated that Christ had already prophesied the destruction of the temple in some way. I don't remember reading that in the Gospels that we have, but it is indicated in Matthew, and they're coming to him and saying, well, could you explain this to us? How is this going to happen? What exactly is going to happen to the temple? So they're asking that, and you'll note also that in the Joseph Smith translation, it doesn't list Peter, James, John, and Andrew as the ones asking it. It just says the disciples now. So again, as in Matthew, it is indicating that at least all of the apostles were here. And they're still not quite understanding how that the temple is going to be destroyed. Don't you understand this? And all of this has to go. All of this is going to be destroyed. And then he talks about you are going to be persecuted. And so we're getting, just as in Matthew, we're getting a very much clearer timeline of this prophecy. Destruction of the temple, persecution of the saints, of the Christians. That's what's coming. We pick this up now in verse 14, but you can't really follow along in the King James Version anymore, so let us just read. When you therefore shall see the abominations of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet concerning the destruction of Jerusalem, then you shall stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them who be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop flee and not return to take anything out of his house. Neither let him who is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and unto them who give suck in those days. Therefore pray ye the Lord that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then in those days shall be great tribulations on the Jews and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, such as was not before sent upon Israel of God since the beginning of their kingdom. For it is written, their enemies shall scatter them until this time, no, nor ever shall be sent again upon Israel. All these things are the beginnings of sorrows, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake. According to the covenants, those days shall be shortened. Behold, these things I have spoken unto you concerning the Jews. Note, it is no longer no greater affliction from the beginning of the world till now and never again. And it's not all-encompassing. This is just upon the Jews. God has not before sent a greater tribulation against the Jews than he did immediately after they killed Christ. And never again. They are scattered by their enemies. This happens about the 2nd century. The Jews are decimated. The nation of Judah, the kingdom, is completely destroyed. The temple is leveled. The last rebellion, I believe, was put down in like the year 140, something like that. You have, I can't remember the guy's name. But anyways, after that, the Jews ceased to exist as an independent nation until the establishment of the nation of Israel in these last days, and like maybe 100 years ago. Not even 100 years ago now. So, for almost 2,000 years, the Jews had no kingdom anymore. They still maintained a national identity, but they did not have an independent nation. Now, this is going to be picking it up in verse 21, but again, you can't really follow along with the King James, so let us just read it. And then immediately after the tribulation of those days which shall come upon Jerusalem, if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe him not. For in those days there shall also arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if possible, they shall deceive the very elect, who are the elect according to the covenant. Behold, I speak these things unto you for the elect's sake. And you also shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all I have told you must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the light of the morning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, and covereth the whole earth, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And now I shew unto you a parable. Behold, wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. So likewise shall mine elect be gathered from the four quarters of the earth, and they shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Behold, I speak unto you for mine elect's sake. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. And again, because iniquity shall abound, the love of men shall wax cold. But he who shall not be overcome, the same shall be saved. And again, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come, or the destruction of the wicked. And again shall the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet be fulfilled. And immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Verily I say unto you, this generation in which these things shall be shewn forth shall not pass away till all I have told you shall be fulfilled. Although the days will come that heaven and earth shall pass away, yet my words shall not pass away, but all shall be fulfilled. And as I said before, after the tribulations of those days, the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And whoso treasureth up my word shall not be deceived, for the Son of Man shall come. And he shall send his angels before him with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. In the King James, we do not have the parable of the eagles gathering to the carcass. That is in the Joseph Smith translation of Matthew. That particular part I think might even be missing from the King James Matthew. But it is in the Joseph Smith. The order of these events is now the same in both Matthew and in Mark in the Joseph Smith translation. We also have the change that it will be in the generation in which these signs come, that generation will not pass away until all the signs are fulfilled. So these corrections are both in Mark and in Matthew. Now, this portion of the Joseph Smith translation from Mark 13 is not in what was published by the church. It's not in the appendix. It's not in the footnotes. So unless you have a copy, you can't do a visual comparison. But if you could, if at all possible, I would highly encourage anybody to find a way, if they can, to make a comparison of the Joseph Smith translation of Matthew 24 and Mark 13, because it is fascinating. So let us continue. In verse 28, but again, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branches are yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh at hand. So likewise mine elect, when they shall see all these things, they shall know that he is near, even at the doors. But of that day and hour no one knoweth, no, not the angels of God in heaven, but my Father only. But as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be also at the coming of the Son of Man, for it shall be with them as it was in the days which were before the flood. Until the day that Noah entered into the ark, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall be fulfilled that which is written, that in the last days 2 shall be in the field, 1 shall be taken, and the other left. 2 shall be grinding at the mill, the one taken, and the other left. And what I say unto thee, I say unto all men, watch therefore, for ye know not at what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to have been broken up, but would have been ready. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. And verily I say unto you, he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and shall appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and thus cometh the end. Again, we have it being brought into alignment with Matthew and the good man of the house. If he knew when it was coming, he would have watched. But since we don't know, we need to be vigilant. We need to stay faithful, doing our duty, so that when Christ does come, he may find us so doing. I'm not going to say any more here. We will be reading this same prophecy again in Luke. I think it is slightly more condensed, but we will see. So I will see you there.